Now let's see the various characteristics of a capacitor, right? So the first one is the nominal capacitance. So in the previous slide, I have shown you a capacitor which is showing some capacitance value on the body itself. So this point is nothing but the nominal value of the capacitor, and it is indicated by letter C, and it is one of the most important of all the capacitor characteristics. So this value is generally measured in either picofarads, nanofarads or microfarads, and it is marked directly on the body of the capacitor as some numbers, letters or color bands. So as we observe this capacitor, which is electrolytic capacitor, its nominal capacitance value is directly given in the number format. Whereas in the last class we have seen a mica capacitor on which a number is written, on which a number is written, and from that number we have to calculate the value of the capacitance, right? For example, if the mica capacitor is printed with the number 103, we write 10. After 10 we write 3 zeros, picofarads we write it, right? So 10k picofarads we write. Okay, so whereas for the electrolytic capacitor, now it is directly given in the number format itself. The capacitance of the capacitor can change the value with the frequency with the ambient temperature. So this point is not there for the resistor, right? So resistors with the circuit frequency, there will be no change in the frequency point. Whereas when we observe the capacitor, the capacitance of the capacitor can change with the circuit frequency and also with the ambient temperature. So for resistors, resistance may change with the ambient temperature or the temperature, whereas it is not dependent on the term called as circuit frequency. If we observe, smaller ceramic capacitor can have nominal values as low as 1 picofarads, while a larger electrolytic capacitors can have a nominal value up to 1 farad. So as in the previous class also we have discussed that electrolytic capacitors are large in size, and also they have the capacity of carrying high capacitance value, right? Whereas mica capacitors are smaller in size. When compared with electrolytic capacitor, they carry smaller capacitance value. So that is the point here. That is, ceramic capacitors will have a nominal value as low as 1 picofarads, that is 10 power minus 9 farads, whereas electrolytic capacitor can have up to 1 farad. And coming to the capacitor tolerance ratings, in general all capacitors have a tolerance rating that can range from minus 20 to as high as plus 80, which is for aluminum electrolytic, affecting its actual or real value. Okay, either it can range from minus 20 to plus 80 depending upon the type of the capacitor. And coming to the choice of the capacitor, it's obvious that it is dependent on the circuit configuration, right? The choice of the capacitor is completely determined by the circuit configuration, but the real value read on the side of the capacitor may not necessarily be its actual value. So this point also should be kept in mind. That is, the value that is read on the side of the capacitor may not be its actual value, right? So this is all about nominal capacitance. So altogether, when you use a capacitor or any kind of capacitor, usage in a particular circuit will be dependent on the application wise, first point. And the second point is that capacitance value for each capacitor, each type of capacitor may vary, and the selection of the capacitor value or the selection of the capacitor should be done according to the values that are prescribed, and also while selecting that value, tolerance value should also be considered. Okay, so this is all about nominal capacitance, which is the most important of all the capacitor characteristics. And next, coming to the working voltage. So this is also one of the important capacitor characteristics that defines the maximum continuous voltage, either it may be AC or DC, that can be applied to a capacitor without any fail during its working life. Or in simple, we can say that without any self destruction, the maximum voltage that a capacitor can be applied, or else the voltage that can be applied to a capacitor is nothing but the working voltage, right? So without any destruction, the maximum voltage that a capacitor can withstand, either it may be AC or DC, we call it as working voltage. Generally, this working voltage is printed on the side of the capacitor body itself, and it refers to DC working voltage. Okay, so the value that is printed on the body, like which we have seen here, it is showing some 25 volts, right? So what this is, this value is nothing but DC working voltage, right? So this point also should be kept in mind. The maximum DC voltage will be, or the maximum working voltage is 25 volts in that capacitor case. The DC and the AC voltage values are usually not the same for the capacitors, as the AC voltage refers to the RMS values and not the maximum or the peak value, which is 1.414 times greater. And also, the specified DC working voltage is valid within the certain temperature range. So this point is also a cautionary point, like the working voltage is valid up to the temperature limits that are prescribed within the data sheets of the capacitor. Like for example, the normal range may be from minus 30 degrees Celsius to plus 70 degrees Celsius. So this working voltage, what we have printed on the body of the capacitor also, that is applicable only at the normal working temperatures. Any DC voltage in excess of its working voltage or any excessive AC ripple current may also cause failure. So it follows therefore that a capacitor will have a longer life if it is operated in a cool environment and with its rated voltage. So this is the precautionary measure while we handle a capacitor. That is, it's better to operate a capacitor in normal room temperature or cool temperatures, and also within the rated voltage. The common working DC voltages are generally 10 volts, 16, 25, 35, 50, 63, 100, 160, 250, 400, 1000 volts are these are the common DC voltages that we can see commonly on the body of the capacitor. Okay, so this is all about the working voltage. So the working voltage point is also important, because without the knowledge of the working voltage, if you operate a capacitor, it may cause complete damage to the capacitor. And as well as the precautionary point what I have mentioned is it should be operated at a normal working temperature, and also it is showing a DC working voltage, not the AC term. And also it should not be applied with the excessive rated voltage. Within the rated voltage and at the normal working temperatures, the value which is printed on the capacitor is applicable, otherwise it is not. Okay, so this is nothing but the working voltage of the capacitor. It is generally written with WV on the data sheets. Next point is nothing but tolerance. So like what we have seen in the resistors, the same point applies here also. The capacitors also have the tolerance rating expressed as either plus or minus value, either it is in picofarads for lower capacitors, generally less than 100 picofarads, or as percentage, that is plus or minus some given percentage for higher value capacitors, generally which is greater than that of 100 picofarads. So altogether some value will be given which is very much similar to that of resistors, even for the capacitors. If we see the tolerance is, if it is given in terms of plus or minus, then that kind of capacitor has a capacitive rating is less than 100 picofarads. When the tolerance is expressed in terms of percentage, we can come to a conclusion that that particular capacitor has a capacitance value which is more than that of 100 picofarads. Okay, so the tolerance value is nothing but the extent or the extra value to which the actual capacitance is allowed to vary from its nominal value, and can range from, like what we have seen previously, from minus 20 percentage to plus 80%. Thus a 100 microfarads capacitor with plus or minus 20% tolerance could vary from like 80 microfarads to 120 microfarads. Okay, because plus or minus 20% gives us 80 farads to 120 farads microfarads, and will still remain within the tolerance ranges. And coming to the capacitors, capacitors are rated according to how near to their actual values that are compared to the rated nominal capacitance, with the color bands or the letters used to indicate their actual tolerance. The most common tolerance variation for the capacitor is 5% or 10%, but some plastic capacitors can also be as low as plus or minus 1% also. Okay, so altogether it may vary from some minus 20% to 80% range is the capacitance tolerance range for each kind of capacitor, paper, mica, plastic. Based on the family, the tolerance values may vary. Okay, next point is leakage current. So how leakage can occur in a capacitor? And the question is how a leakage current can occur in a capacitor. The answer is the dielectric which is used inside the capacitor, that is to separate the conductive plates, is not a perfect insulator, resulting in a very small current flowing or leaking through the dielectric due to the influence of the powerful electric fields that are built up by the charge on the plates when applied by a constant supply voltage. So this is the reason why we find some leakage current in the capacitor, that is because of the dielectric that we use in the capacitor, and the maybe the dielectric which is not a perfect insulator, and that insulator may have some amount of current conductivity, and that current conductivity will give us some current flowing or leaking through the dielectric. That is, the leakage current is not in the conducting plates. The leakage current is because of the leakage that occurs in the dielectric. Okay, so this may occur because of the applied voltage between the two plates of the capacitor. This leakage may develop. This small DC current flow in the region of nanoamperes and is called the capacitor leakage current. So the leakage current is a result of electrons physically making their way through the dielectric medium around its edges or across its leads, and which will over time fully discharging the capacitor if the supply voltage is removed. Okay, when the leakage is very low, like when we see in film or foil type capacitor, it is generally referred to as insulation resistance and is expressed as a high value resistance in parallel with capacitor. Okay, whereas in case of foil type or film type capacitor, we generally refer to it as insulation resistance. That is, this leakage current will be indicated as insulation resistance, and it is given as high value resistance in parallel with capacitance. When the leakage current is high, as in electrolytic, it is referred to as leakage current, as electrons flow directly through the electrolyte. that is even in the leakage current terms, when we see in case of foil type or film type, we call it as insulation resistance, whereas in case of electrolytic capacitors we call it as leakage current. Okay, the capacitor leakage current is also an important parameter, like in amplifying coupling circuits or in any power supplies which we generally use for either coupling or any storage applications, that is being used by Teflon or any other plastic capacitors, because lower dielectric constants the higher the insulation resistance. So this point should also be kept in mind, that is leakage current, it is not that important or that effective when we go for a normal hobby kits or any electronic experimental kits, but in case of some storage applications or in coupling devices, this leakage current should be monitored and observed. So electrolytic capacitors, that is which are made of either tantalum or aluminium, on the other hand may have very high capacitances, but they also have very high leakage currents, like it will be around some 5 to 20 microamperes per microfarads. For every microfarad, 5 to 20 microamperes of leakage current will be there for electrolytic type of capacitors, because the reason is poor insulation resistance, and therefore electrolytic capacitors are not at all suitable for storage or any coupling kind of applications. And also the flow of leakage current for aluminium electrolytic capacitor increases with temperature. So when we use an aluminium electrolytic capacitor, we should keep it in mind that this leakage current is increasing with increasing temperature. So this must also be addressed while we handle aluminium electrolytic capacitors. Okay. So this is all about leakage current, where we have to observe these leakage current and what are the how much value will be there for each kind of capacitor, and all I have told you. And next the point is nothing but working temperature. As the name suggests, like working voltage, working temperature. So nothing but simply we can say that the temperature at which, or the operating temperature of a capacitor, is nothing but the working temperature. So the changes in the temperature around the capacitor affect the value of the capacitance because of the changes in the dielectric property. This is very obvious that because of the external temperature changes, the dielectric properties may change and altogether capacitance may change. So if the air or surrounding temperature becomes either hot or cool, the capacitance value of the capacitor may change so much so as to affect the correct operation of the circuit. So this point has to be monitored, like when the outside temperature changes, the working temperature of the capacitor changes. In general, the normal working range of most capacitors is minus 30 degrees to plus 125 degrees centigrade, with the normal voltage ratings given for the working temperature of not more than 70 degrees per centigrade, especially while we see in case of plastic capacitors. Okay, so this is a working range, that is minus 30 to plus 125 is the normal working temperature. Generally, when we see electrolytic capacitors and especially aluminium electrolytic capacitors at high temperatures, that is like above plus 85 degrees, the liquid what is there in the electrolyte can be lost because of the evaporation, and the body of the capacitor, especially being extremely small sizes, may become deformed due to the internal pressure and the leak outright. So this point should be kept in mind regarding electrolytic capacitor. They become deformed because of the changes in the working temperature. And also electrolytic capacitors cannot be used at lower temperatures, that too because at lower temperatures like minus 10 degrees or so, Electrolytic capacitors, the electrolyte which is there in the capacitor may become frizzy or jelly. That is why we cannot use at very low temperatures, and as well as we cannot use electrolytic capacitors at very high temperatures. Either the electrolyte may become frozen, or the electrolyte may get evaporated because of the high temperatures or low temperatures. This is in the case of electrolytic capacitors. Okay, so this is all about working temperature. So this is also this working temperature will also be written on the body of the capacitor. Well, while we see in some kind of capacitor, that too in electrolytic capacitor which are in big in size, there we see the working temperature also, which is denoted by letter T. Next is the temperature coefficient. So the temperature coefficient is the point which we have seen for the resistors also. So now we will see for the capacitors. So the temperature coefficient of a capacitor is the maximum change in the capacitor over a specified temperature range. The temperature coefficient of a capacitor is generally expressed linearly as parts per million per degree centigrade, ppm per degree centigrade, or as a percentage change over a particular range of temperature. Okay, so it is either temperature coefficient is either indicated as ppm per degree centigrade, or it can be as percentage change over a particular range of temperature. Some capacitors are non-linear and increase their value as the temperature rises given to them. A temperature coefficient that is generally expressed as positive. In general, most of the capacitors, especially the electrolytic capacitors, lose their capacitance when they get hot, but the temperature compensating capacitors are available in the range of at least P1000 to N5000. It is also possible to connect a capacitor with a positive temperature coefficient in series or parallel with a capacitor having the negative temperature coefficient, so that the net result being that of two positive effects will cancel each other over a certain range of temperatures. Another application of temperature coefficient capacitors is that to use them to cancel out the effects of temperature on other components within a circuit, such as inductors, resistors, etc. Okay, when we observe that some capacitors are exhibiting temperature coefficient, what we can do is that we can use temperature coefficient capacitors either in parallel or series with the our objective capacitor, so as to compensate the temperature changes and nullify the effects. Okay, so this is all about temperature coefficient. Next is polarization. So this point also we have seen in the electrolytic capacitor, that is polarization and non-polarized capacitors. This is the term what I have mentioned in during the discussion of electrolytic capacitor. So the capacitors generally refer to the electrolytic type capacitors, but mainly the aluminum electrolytics with regard to their electrical connection. The majority of the electrolytic capacitors are polarized type, that is the voltage connected to the capacitor terminals must have correct polarity, that is positive to positive and negative to negative. What happens for the incorrect polarization is it causes oxide layer inside the capacitor to break down, resulting in very large currents flowing through the device, resulting in the destruction, as we have already mentioned earlier. So the majority of the electrolytic capacitors have their negative terminal clearly marked. So in the starting of the session itself, I have shown you a capacitor. Here for the electrolytic capacitor, the negative mark is clearly mentioned. So for all the majority of the majority electrolytic capacitors will have the negative terminal clearly marked with a black strip band, arrows or some indications on the body in order to prevent any incorrect connections to the DC supplies. Whereas for larger electrolytic capacitors have their metal can or body connected to the negative terminal, but their high voltage types have the metals can insulated with the electrolyte being brought out to separate uh, screw terminals or like that for safety. Also, when using this aluminum electrolytic type of capacitors in power supply smoothing circuits, care should be taken, because to prevent the sum of the peak DC voltage and AC ripple voltage from becoming a reverse voltage. So, while we handle electrolytic capacitors, polarization point should be kept in mind, and also this reverse voltage point, like while using in smoothing circuits, the sum of the peak AC and the DC voltage may sum up and become, and there may be a chance of becoming reverse voltage. That also should be kept in mind. Okay. And the last characteristics of the capacitor is ESR, equivalent series resistance. Let's see what is series equivalent series resistance, ESR. ESR of a capacitor is the AC impedance of the capacitor when used at higher frequency and includes the resistance of the dielectric material, the DC resistance of the terminal leads, the DC resistance of the connections to the dielectric, and the capacitor plate resistance all are measured at a particular frequency and temperature. In some ways, ESR is opposite of the insulation resistance, which is presented on a pure resistance in parallel with capacitor. In general, an ideal capacitor will have only capacitance, but ESR is presented as pure resistance in series with capacitance, and which is frequency dependent, making it a dynamic quantity. So, not all the times, sometimes it may be represented the capacitance value with a pure resistance value. And ESR defines the energy losses of an equivalent series resistance of a capacitor. It must therefore determine the capacitance overall I square R heating losses, especially used in either power circuits or switching circuits. Okay, and the capacitors which have relatively high ESR have less ability to pass current to and from its plates to the external circuits, being of longer charging and discharging time constants. The ESR of the electrolytic capacitors increases over time as their electrolyte dries out, and the capacitors which have low ESR ratings are available and are best suitable when using the capacitor as a filter. Okay, so lower ratings ESR are suitable for capacitor as a filter. Okay, so these are all the points that have to be kept in mind when we deal with a capacitor. So any misappropriate operation of the capacitor or self destruction of the capacitor or any damage to the capacitor and the connected circuitry may be because of any of the changes in the characteristics, like either the capacitor is being operated outside the working range or outside the voltage range, outside the working temperature, or without considering the leakage current parameters. Our main point is without the consideration of polarization factors if we connect the capacitor into the circuit, and also the temperature coefficient points if it is not kept in mind. So all these points should be observed and also kept in mind while we connect any kind of capacitor into a circuit. So for the smooth operation of the circuit, all the capacitor characteristics should be known in prior in order to have a smooth and non-destructive operation of the capacitor. So all these characteristics will be available either on the data sheets, or will be, some of them will be printed on the body of the capacitors, either by numbers or some symbols or letters or so. So before you use, first you know all these points and then go to its operation, then you'll find a smooth operation of the capacitor. Okay, so these are the points of discussion for today, and in the next class we will meet with other points from the capacitors. Okay, thank you.